Welcome back to Mixing Up Success, the podcast where we talk about what it actually takes to build a baking business, the creativity, the systems, the mindset, and the reality behind the scenes. Today, I'm joined by Joy Kaplan, owner of Sweet Joyness Bakery in Beaverton, Oregon. Joy runs a cottage bakery specializing in decorated cakes and cookies with a style that leans delightfully quirky. But what makes Joy's perspective especially interesting is that she didn't come into baking through the hobby to business path that so many cottage bakers take. Joy has spent most of her adult life working inside professional bakeries as a cake decorator, gaining experience in high-volume production environments before eventually launching her own home bakery. In our conversation today, we're exploring something I think a lot of creative business owners wrestle with: how to build structure when your brain is wired for creativity. Joy openly describes herself as someone who tends to fly by the seat of her pants, even while knowing how important systems, pricing tools, and business structure really are. And honestly, that tension is incredibly common in the baking world. So today, we're talking about the difference between professional bakery training and cottage baking, why admin and structure matter even when we'd rather be decorating, navigating burnout and sustainability in a physically demanding career, how creativity and structure can actually support each other, and how comparison can sneak into the journey when you're figuring out your own path. Joy brings a thoughtful, honest perspective to the conversation, and I think so many bakers are going to see themselves somewhere in her story. Joy, welcome to Mixing Up Success.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So as we get started, Joy, I would love for you to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, about your background, your professional baking background, and how you have built out your small cottage bakery now.
Yeah. I really got started in middle school. I took the Wilton cake decorating class at Michael's.
Yeah.
Of course, it's classic. My mom had taken it and I'd seen her. I was like, I need to do this. And I didn't really think about cake decorating as a high school student, but then I went and worked at a Cold Stone as a senior and started decorating cakes there kind of for fun, and kind of ended up becoming part of their whole cake decorating process as they streamlined their system. And I think when I was 20, I was like, I don't know what to do with my life. All I know how to do is decorate cakes. And my boyfriend at the time was like, you should go to pastry school. I was like, oh, that's smart. Okay. Tried it out. I hated making bread. I loved making cakes. And, I look back on like my childhood and stuff, and you can see the through line of loving to make baked goods, loving to decorate stuff, and, making fun things for other people. So yeah, went to pastry school and, worked at a Cold Stone as a cake decorator throughout that, which honestly probably boosted my resume a lot more than a pastry degree. But yeah, just kept kind of working in just all manner of different bakeries in and around Portland. Along the whole way was I'd started doing my own side hustle, and so much of that was just to express my own creativity, that I didn't have to have someone at work limiting my time. And I finally got to a point right around 2020 where I was like, I'm not doing well in a workspace with other, being managed, and I'm not good at being manageable, I think, to plenty of bosses. So I was like, we're going to just do this ourselves, and, I'll attempt to manage myself. That's, how we got to this point.
Yeah. So that's how your business was born, Sweet Joyness Bakery.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Definitely appreciating, those big production spaces. But yeah, I think, being a creative person makes it hard to thrive in a industrial setting.
Yes. Yeah. I think I'm really glad you talk so openly about that, because that is one of the biggest challenges, I think, for really creative bakers, is that they can work in those type of environments and they can learn a lot from those type of environments, it can be very, very stifling and hard to survive.
Yeah. It's, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your transition then to opening your own cottage bakery, why you chose to start it. You've kind of shared in that you would control the creativity and what you were making, and then the differences between a professional bakery background and running your own business.
Yeah. I honestly, my very first full-time cake decorating job out of pastry school is with Elephant's Deli, which, they just had a big fire recently, but in where I used to work. But that the manager who worked there was incredible at giving me like the right amount of structure and the right amount of freedom in that, I was terrible at getting to work on time. And she was like, your real job is having the dessert case full by 10 a.m. So she's like, I don't care if you get here at 6 or at 9:55. As long as the case is full, that's your job. And honestly, I was like, that was such a oh my gosh, okay, I can gauge my day. I can, work around this. This is so nice. Like I am being given autonomy and responsibility. And given that I'm definitely much more of a night owl, that yes, later in the day is definitely my strong suit. And of course, ever since then, I've worked for everybody that's like, nope, if you're not here at, 7 a.m., if they clock in at 7:01, you're a total disappointment. And it's like, well, that's, I understand in a lot of those situations, especially in a kitchen where you have multiple people. If other workers are dependent on your product, then yes, you do need to be in at a certain time. You do need to be a reliable provider. But I think I realized early on, that's maybe not my best spot. I'm here to finish everything off and send it out the door. And so that became, kind of a realization of, no matter how many places I go to work, this doesn't seem to be working. And
Can I share what I'm hearing there, Joy? Because I think it's the essence of everything I build. And literally what I'm hearing is that you recognized you needed to build a business around your life and what worked for your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that. I love that
right?
so much. Because that's what we're all doing. We're all trying to find where we can really thrive. And that's amazing. Yeah.
I think, it's I think been a lifelong struggle of, I understand cookie cutter systems. I mean, it's an appropriate analogy, but there's so many of them that have never worked for me. And, instead of, hey, you don't fit in this cookie cutter, let's find a different shape for you. It's how can we smash
Fit
you
you
into
in.
the shape? And if you don't, you're not good enough. And that's, silly for people to think, it's just not everybody fits in that one shape, and we could learn to work together, learn to think outside the box, and thinking outside the box is my favorite thing. So,
yeah, I mean,
definitely.
It goes back to just, for example, why I leaned so heavily into just royal icing cookies is because you don't have to wake up early and get it done and have a fresh product, right?
Yeah.
I needed something that had a longer shelf life, that had the ability to stay fresh, that had some flex on when I needed to start something, stop something, prep something. It gives us so much flexibility, and certain products don't do that. Certain products, you can't.
Oh, yeah. Been a running theme since pastry school that everybody's like, you're a night owl. Why would you go into baking? I don't make donuts. I am not making baguettes. I don't need to get up at 5 a.m. You don't need cake or cookies before 10 a.m. So it's fine. I'll wake up when it's time to wake up.
Yeah, there are definitely products that you can fit into a night owl lifestyle.
Absolutely.
You just have to find them. So tell us, what's one thing that surprised you most about becoming a business owner?
Definitely, you don't realize how much stuff you have to do. So, the beauty of working in a professional setting, especially as a cake and cookie decorator, is I don't bake the cake. I don't bake the cookies. I don't even mix up the frosting. I don't have to deal with payroll. I don't have to, think about margins and profits in this shop. I can show up and just assemble cakes and decorate cookies and then go home. And yeah, that is definitely, as a owner of the business, you wear all the hats and I suddenly have to think about everything. And while I can multitask to some degree, then, it's once we get past like 3 things, then I'm a little bit too scattered. So it's really hard to, maintain that focus on everything. Just, that, I guess, a back burner of like everything's on the back burner and you need to be switching and, filtering through things. And
Yeah,
that's
I think that's a great way to describe it because it's like the ordering, do I have the boxes? Do I have the bags? Do I have the ingredients? Do I have this? Do I have the cookie cutter? Do I have all of these things that are like, no one prepared you to have to
right.
remember all of these things and figure
Yeah.
out which one is priority first.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely a challenge.
Definitely a lot of
So
late night
how,
ordering.
yeah. Oh yeah, same. I think unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast when you're a small business is that
Right.
things trickle into the evenings and weekends and making sure you're prepped for the week ahead to fill your orders and
Yeah.
all of that. But there is so much flexibility on how and where it fits, which is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about the creativity versus structure? Because it sounds like at one point you did have a career where you were just like the decorator and you were able to find that a little bit of middle ground in having, the case had to be filled at 10 a.m. and having the flexibility on fitting that in, which allows you to really thrive, hopefully, in creativity. But when you're running your own business, no matter how much you want to deny it, I think we can both admit structure is really important. So how do
Yeah.
you balance? How do you balance that now?
Currently, I don't feel like I do. So it's, trying to get into that balance. I actually just recently started talking with a life coach because like
Yeah.
I need that accountability. I need some sort of outside management where my current system that I've been doing for the last few years is kind of cobbling together some sense of consistency with taking an order, fulfilling an order, charging the person, having them come pick it up. And there's errors or not errors, but like there's flaws in the system that make it more stressful to me. And I just let that build till I burn out. And then I take a month off and say, I'm going to fix it. And then I tweak one little tiny thing and I'm like, I fixed it enough. And then I go back into work because I haven't worked for a month. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing income. I got to take all the orders. And then you just start the cycle over again and keep limping
Yes.
along. And yeah, you get to a point where you're like, okay, we are tired of limping. This, you need to have that support around you. And I mean, even something as simple as I think ages ago, I met up with a bunch of cookie bakers and I was like, I haven't really communicated with other people. I was like, what are people charging? And they all kind of gave me prices. They're like, well, what are you charging? And I was like, oh, I was charging like $15 to $20 less a dozen than they were. And they were like,
Yeah.
I thought I was about to get beat up because I was like, oh my gosh, I could totally be charging more. And the moment I updated my pricing, I was like, oh, I feel so much better about my job. I'm so much less stressed because
Yes.
I'm earning money as opposed to
Yes.
spinning wheels. And I'm like, just that simple detail of just
Yeah.
getting your pricing right can make a huge difference. Yeah. There's so many other tidbits of structure that I want to implement and should. And knowing how much easier that'll make my life is trying to get there.
Yeah, I think I'm so glad you say that because, well, pricing, I think when you're starting a business, that is one of the hardest things. And the way
Right.
I talk about pricing is that, I think we bake because we love it and we want to
Right.
give our work and it's hard for us to put value on it. But
Right.
when we can recognize that a livable wage for our work is what allows us to sustain our business and not burn out and be more creative, it's like a huge relief, right?
Yeah.
Like having that, like, yeah, right. Everybody else is charging I could do it too.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's really powerful. And I'm sure so many bakers can relate to that. I can relate to it. I was there at one point,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean,
we've all been there.
I still need to update my prices. But yeah, I think something else coming from that professional side where we were charging so much less for a cake or
Yes.
cookies. And it didn't make sense until I realized we are also selling bread. We are also selling donuts. These are products that are very cheap to make and sell very well. So because the bread side of this bakery is well in the black with their money,
Yeah.
they can afford to lose some money on their cakes and their other desserts that do cost more to make, more to decorate, all this other stuff. And, finally realizing that I need to start comparing myself to other small businesses versus trying to keep up and compete with large bakeries was, I think, a huge pivot in like my personal business values and understanding.
Yeah, I think comparison is huge, right?
Right.
We're all guilty of like seeing the other baker online and like, oh my gosh, how are they doing that? Why are they doing that? And we forget exactly like what you're saying. Their business may be structured completely different. They may
Right.
have a different model. They may be in year 15 of their business and we're in year 5.
Right.
You cannot compare. And I'm glad you bring up the product differences because, similar in my own business, I have wholesale. I have a wholesale line of cookies. I
Right.
don't make money off a wholesale. I run it at break even, right? To
Right.
cover my costs. There's not profit margin off of that product. But what that product does to me is if I align with the right businesses and I align with the right marketing, it funnels my custom work where I make
Right.
the margin.
Yeah.
And so when you can do that type of thing, but that's hard because I don't know that I've shared that, right? And other bakers are probably looking at me like, what is she doing? Right? Like, that's so frustrating. How is she charging that? Right?
Right. She must be making so much money.
Right.
No.
And so, like, you don't know. You don't
Yeah.
know what another business is doing. And it's really, as long as you can keep that mindset and remind yourself. So, thank you for reminding all of us
Right.
that, you can't compare yourself to everybody else.
Or healthy comparisons within tons of reason. Lots of grains of salt.
Yeah, and I mean, skill plays into it. Like you have professional training, whereas a lot of cottage bakers don't have any professional training. And like that's a whole nother skill level that you bring to the table that a lot of us don't have. I don't have that.
Yeah. It definitely, I've seen, I guess it makes a difference. I went to CookieCon last year for the first time in like 12 years. Like I went to like their third one way back in Salt Lake. And even then I was working, in a professional capacity as well as on the side for myself. But all of the classes at CookieCon that go around efficiency. Oh my, everyone that I went to, I was like, well, you guys y'all know how to do that. Like that's something that I've had bosses yell at me for 20 years. Like not that I'm super efficient in my own job at home, but definitely there's a lot of like batch making and large scale stuff that you can just scaling up some ingredients or some recipes so that you're not having to make, little batches of cookie dough 60 times. And yeah, it's been kind of fascinating to have all of that as like knowledge from bigger stores. And that's, I mean, even with trying to get a bakery license in my house several years ago, the inspector came and was like, oh my gosh, this is like the cleanest, most prepared I've ever seen. And I was like, yeah, because I've been working in massive kitchens where we have inspections and you have to shape up and, clean everything. I was like, this has been ingrained in me. I've been like scared into flawless cleanliness or you will kill everybody. So,
well, I was a food safety manager for a number of years.
That's right.
So,
oh my gosh.
Joy, you and I could talk a lot about this because my job was to scare you.
Right. It worked. It worked.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so funny because that's literally like I never wanted to scare employees, right? Like that
Yeah.
was never really the thing.
Right. Yeah.
But it's like you have to like when you're managing like big scale like that, it's like you could kill somebody. Do you
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
like the
Like
implications?
this is a big responsibility.
Yeah.
At the very
Yeah.
least, you could give everybody a cold, and that's
Yeah.
gross. Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
100%.
it's definitely, been a thing that is intriguing about just how everybody comes into, baking from home. And
Mhm.
things that, I would assume this is common sense. Of course, you have to
Right.
keep all of your cookie dough separate from, your raw turkey in your fridge. Like that's a thing. But I'm like, if you've never taken a food handler's test and if you've just, been cooking at home all the time, nobody's ever questioned that. So why would you know? Which, is all the more importance to having somebody tell you how important that is.
Yeah, and I think when I don't know, I went from a food safety manager and opened a cottage bakery. Like, I mean, it's interesting because I think I drug my feet actually even trying to sell cookies because I mean, my head was like, oh my gosh, how could I ever do this and meet all of the specs and all of the
Right.
things? And then it's like you start looking into it and it's like, oh, well, it's a really safe product. And as long as you've got your checks and balances, like, you can go forth. So I went ahead under the cottage bakery,
Right.
which technically, is pretty easy to get a cottage bakery license in Oregon.
Yes.
But then it was like, oh, there was limitations. It's gotten a little bit looser in the last few years, but there was definitely limitations that I felt like, no, I want to grow this business. So I,
Yeah.
scaled to the next level. And it was like, I'm taking the application. Like, I mean, my inspector was like, you don't have to use so much sanitizer.
That's probably a first. Using too much is totally.
I was like, I'm just, I know
Try to
realize
keep
there's
things clean. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny to hear that as I haven't been able to connect with very many bakers that have had that experience and in like setting up their home to be a
Right.
bakery.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I would assume too, I guess, with, coming from being an inspector, that like you actually get to witness a ton of different kitchens and, take into note, like, okay, this place functions really well. I want to, you get to kind of cherry pick all the
yeah.
good kitchens and all the bad kitchens and
Yeah,
kind
so
of help create your space.
my background was actually in the on the production line, so I didn't have exposure to a lot of kitchen spaces in
Oh,
my food safety
that's
world, but it's all the same standards and all the same
right.
regulations. But ironically, my good friend that teaches a lot of classes with me, and she's been on this podcast, Michelle, she is our local health inspector now. She and I were food safety
Nice.
managers on the production side for a while, and she is actually the food safety manager now. And so the wealth of knowledge and just like, she can see and learn things about production spaces that is just it's really valuable in figuring out my own efficiencies and my own production things. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend that we used to work together and she's now an inspector in Washington. And so that's like, hey, like, is this up to code? Which apparently Washington standards are higher than ours here in Oregon. So I'm like, all right, if I can get tips and tricks on Washington standards, it's like I'll be way in the clear.
I think most people in those roles, they really want to help you be successful.
Oh yeah.
Like if you can lean in, find some connections in that community, and it's so valuable in helping you fine tune your own processes and systems and how you handle food and product and and make sure that you're keeping everybody safe. So yeah. If we can circle back, we've talked a little bit about your transition from a professional kitchen to a cottage baking. We've talked a little bit about the creative versus the structure. And we've talked a little bit about comparison and finding your own path. Can we talk about burnout? You mentioned you kind of have this cycle. And so, how are you managing that burnout sustainability cycle that you're in?
Again, I'm kind of not, or at least right now, I guess I'm definitely getting into a much more, I'm burnt out from burning out and, really trying to focus on, we need to get this structure in place before we get back into selling. And I'm definitely like, with my partner being our main breadwinner,
Yeah.
I'm lucky in that I can actually take that time off. And I understand that not everybody gets to do that. So I appreciate getting to like fully take time off and focus specifically on that versus, if this were my sole income, I would probably have to just be working and also adding like classes, or if I can, do a life coach or anything where I can get that help would be, probably a little bit more stressful, but it's, you got to push through those times sometimes to know that, it's annoying to build this structure right now, but once it's in place, it will make everything go more smoothly. And I think my biggest thing right now is trying to like streamline a lot of my customer interaction, and whatever admin systems I have, streamline those as simply as possible so that, because as much as I hate the admin, I need it.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's less of a struggle, then I won't be so hesitant to take it on.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first started Joy, and I didn't have a structure. I like threw it out on Instagram. I'm like, oh, I'm making cookies, right? I'm open
Right.
for business.
Yeah.
And it didn't take very long. And I had orders coming in via direct messages from Instagram and Facebook. I had emails coming in. I had text messages coming in. I had phone calls coming in. And I had no structure. I had nowhere to put the order. Like, I was like sticky notes, writing things down, trying to put it in a book. And I
So
was
many
like,
sticky notes.
right. And I mean, today, like, my kitchen is still plastered in sticky notes. Don't feel bad. We've all done that.
Right.
But the point was, I realized really fast that I was going to crash and burn if or I'd have to like take a huge chunk of time off, dial this in, and so that was the very first system I remember building. And it was, I need one ordering system and one ordering system only. And I created a Google form. I was just like, a Google form where they can put it in, emails me when they come in, and I will book it within 48 hours. I've been using it for 7 years. I have not even hardly changed it other than to update the pricing.
Right.
And then I have a copy and paste email to book their order. And I literally, because then, we're doing custom work, creative work. They want all these things. So then I was like, they would text me things, and I was like, no. I remember the first change was, I have booked your order. I have everything that you provided. If you want to provide me any more information or guidance, you will email me from this email.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I'm going to work off of whatever you put on the form.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember like that one sentence and being like, that feels so good.
Oh my gosh. That was, so last year when I went to CookieCon, I totally had to look this up last night. Ashley Nelson, who runs Sweet Nelson's bakery like on the East Coast, she did an efficiency class, and she talked about her order form, and that like the confirmation button on her order form is, I give the decorator creative freedom to complete this order. It's, you've given me your theme, your colors, you can upload 2 inspiration photos, and then I'm taking it from there. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that sounds so nice. Like I love the collaboration process with customers. Love getting like, especially when it's someone who's like on that same wavelength, and you're like, oh my gosh, what if we did this? And what, they get excited with you, and they have a great idea, and they love your ideas. And I love that customer. However, I feel like that's maybe 1 in every 10 customers. And everybody else is like, nah, I just want Winnie the Pooh baby shower, and they need to look like this picture. And you're like, no, okay, we're going to change this around. And creating that, like, just show me what you have in mind, and I will give you something in that vein. You came to me, you need to trust me. And eliminate the 60 emails of back and forth.
Yeah. I think I've occasionally have the order that just eats up my time in communication. But I will say that most of my orders are now booked through my form, and I send a confirmation email that I've booked it, and there might be one email back, and then I send here's your order ready to go, pick it up.
Yeah.
And
That's beautiful.
that system alone has saved me so much time and headache, and just disclosures about like, you can provide inspiration photos, but I am not going to copy. I am going to take my
Right.
own spin. You're buying my artwork,
Right.
and this is, you're paying for my artistry. And
Yeah.
yeah.
That's definitely, again, going all the way back to like starting my own business where working in a professional setting, I'm not the one that's talking with the customer, taking their order. I'm just being given a form, which was nice. And that like, okay, seasonal flowers, happy birthday, Steve. Like that's easy. I can knock that out. But yeah, when there were the orders that I'm like, what does this mean? Like, I don't get to go talk to the customer and hash this out. But also, like, there were so many that were just, okay, we printed out a picture that they wanted, just do that. And like, just copy paste. Like, great. That's so rewarding to me to just, be control C, control whatever. Like, that's all I am here. And wanting to be able to express myself, and again, there is that, like, the customer is ordering something, they're the one paying. You do need to, please them with whatever you're making. You want them to like what they're getting. But that balance between commodity and artistry of, I am still a different person than that person that you sent the picture of. I would love to do my own take. And, I think as a small business baker, I'm like, I don't have a boss who gets to like, stand up for me. I don't get to stand behind somebody and let them say the hard things. I'm like, I have to like stand up for myself. And like, that's scary. What if they say no? And, it definitely takes, some time before you get to a point of like, no, I don't care. If you don't want my stuff, then there's a million other bakers. I will recommend them to you and, be able to express yourself. Then trying to find out how to do that.
Yeah.
Sustainably.
I think you bring up something that's really important that a lot of times we don't touch on. And my response to it is always, wow, I missed the mark. Because we are creating something, even with all the questions I ask when somebody places an order and all the things I request them to provide, sometimes I end up with very, very little to work off of.
Right.
And I don't take the time to call them and figure out what they meant by this. I just do my best. And there's occasionally the time where that cookie set goes out the door and their response is not, I don't have anybody to hide behind, like you're saying, right?
Yeah.
You're like, okay, bring it on.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think over time, and it's hard, but over time, being able to get to where you can just say, sorry about that, I missed the mark. And so I actually developed in my order form, I actually have like a cookie disappointment policy.
Nice. I like that term.
And you know what my first question is? Any guesses?
There's too many.
I know, right? Okay. My first question, did you eat the cookies?
That is,
Because I'm like, okay, if you've already consumed the product, then I'm out. Like, I'm already out everything. But anyways, I start this process and, it's very few orders, but it's hard. It's so hard because we pour ourselves into our designs.
I totally just triggered a memory of a bakery I used to work for that an old couple would come in every Sunday and buy the same cake, same type of cake. And then like the next day they would come back with, 2/3 of the cake left and say, this tasted stale. And they'd want their money back. Like, because they both just ate 2 slices of cake and wanted to not pay for it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I get that that was a very unique couple, but definitely the struggle with the artistry in that, like, I'm also selling you food. So part of this product is, does it taste good? Did you enjoy it? how detrimental is it that
Yeah.
that we missed the mark on something? I definitely have more often the night before where I make a slight change to the
Mm.
design that I planned. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to hate me and I've ruined it. And they're going to be so mad that it's different. And then they show up, they're like, this looks great. I love it. I'm like, okay, I should calm down.
I've had those too. Or where I'm
Yeah.
like handing off the box and I'm like,
Yeah.
I hope I got it. And they're like, these
Right.
are amazing. And you're like, well, that's not my
Yeah.
best work. But,
Or it's when it's your best work and you're so excited and they're like, oh,
Yes.
thanks. And then they walk away and you're like, no, I need
That's
you
it.
to be fully radicalized by this. Why? Why are you not blinded by my amazingness? How dare you?
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate that conversation. And I
Oh.
think as we are getting to the end here, I do want to ask you a few questions circling back to something that sparked is like, you said, okay, I get to a point where I need to pause and like regroup. Does that also help fuel your creativity, taking those like downtimes before you get
Uh,
back into baking?
yeah, a lot of times it does. Like, you get that burnout where you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to look at a stick of butter again forever. Like, you're just, get me out of the kitchen. I hate it. And then especially used to be just like 24 to 48 hours. I would be like, oh my gosh, I could design these. Oh, that's a really good idea for a cookie set. And you instantly get back into it. And yeah, it definitely allows for some time to think about, okay, if I'm regrouping administratively, this also is a great time to think about upcoming holidays, upcoming seasons, and like what kind of designs, if I need to be making some showcase stuff to put on the website or on, social media, that allows me to do that. I do like, this is another thing that I struggle with in my burnout is that kind of thing. Any design ideas I have, I will sketch them out. I can draw them. I can think about them. I can collect a Pinterest board worth of collage ideas. But I'm at a point where if somebody isn't ordering a cookie, like I don't want to make it. That is a big concern for me right now of like, I don't want to just make stuff for myself. I don't want to make stuff just for the heck of it. I'm like, nah, if it's not being ordered, I'm not down. And I mean, I've kind of taken to just working in other craft fields. I will pick up embroidery. I will do some other hobbies just to like my creativity still wants to express itself. And it's like,
Yeah.
we just don't want to make cookies, which, going into quilting and all these other things, I am finding creativity and that is sparking more ideas for cookies and cakes. And it is still feeding me in my creativity and in my excitement for my job while not, having to just make more cookies, I guess, is where
Yeah.
that's at.
Yeah. I appreciate that because I guess what I'm trying to get at is like we are in such a creative environment. Cakes and cookies and the expectations are really high for creativity. Like they're
Yeah.
really like I mean, if you look at like the last 10 years of like expectations around this type of dessert product for events, it's like, whoa.
It has skyrocketed. Yeah. Social
Yeah.
media has been a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. And I struggle to refuel that drive to create sometimes. And so I was
Yeah.
just curious if that the cycle you've kind of described was also like the ability to just kind of like take a little break and reset creatively. And I'm with you. If I take 5 days off from cookies, I mean my brain is about to explode, right? With ideas.
Yeah.
And but sometimes, I mean, I just need that. I look forward to those, I'm not going to do cookies this week. Like
Yeah.
it's rare. It's rare that I can
Right.
actually have a week where I'm not making any cookies, but I kind of look forward to them because then I get excited to get back into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those breaks, they are rejuvenating in a way.
Mhm.
And yeah, again, that's even if it's, I still don't want to do cookies. It's like, I still need to express myself somehow.
Yeah.
And that usually kind of gravitates back towards, oh, I can implement this idea into my baked goods. And
Yeah.
it's, I think, I mean, we talked about that so many people do this job because they love to make stuff for people. They love to do it. And I think I've described it as a compulsion, that I love doing other crafts. I have other things that people have been like, oh, you'd be really great at that in a job. And I'm like, I enjoy it, but I'm like, I don't want to do it all the time. This is something that, I keep coming back to. I can't not do it. And that, again, kind of goes into why we tend to undercharge and why we tend to, not want to, businessify it as much. But when you have businessified it, you need to have that structure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll end up hating it. So,
yeah, I personally lean into, a number of years ago when I really went kind of full-time cookies, because cookies used to be a hobby. They used to be an outlet. They used to just be for fun. When it really became like my primary income, and I need to businessify this adventure.
it's a word.
It sucked some of the fun out of it,
Yeah.
and to find other hobbies to lean into just for those outlets. And for me, it is growing dahlias and gardening and those kind of things. And often people ask me, "Oh, can I buy some flowers?" Or I'm like, "No." Like you can have a bouquet, but
Yeah.
I'm like, that is something that I'm just like, I protect it as a hobby, and I
Yeah.
don't ever want to turn it into a real business income stream, because it comes with
Right.
so much structure and takes the fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely, that's any of my craft hobbies, any other thing. Like I recently made some frosting dollops out of like caulk,
Mm. Yeah.
and I had extra stuff, and somebody was like, "Oh, you should put magnets on those and like paint them, and then like you can sell them at like your farmer market or your booth or whatever." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a really fun idea." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to make. No, I don't." I mean, like, even if it's like, okay, this is like bakery themed stuff, it falls in line with I'm like, no, but now I have to buy magnets and I have to think about paint and I have to and then I have to price this out. I'm like, no. I'm gonna make some and give them as stocking stuffers. This is great. But yeah, it's definitely, which, I know a lot of people that do that they instant you commodify your hobby, you hate it. It becomes a job. And not that this isn't, like, it does feel like a drudgery job sometimes. But again, it's that compulsion. I still love to do it. I still find joy in this, and I can't not do it. And, making that system that makes it worthwhile and less stressful is, what keeps it as a career and not a job and not a hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Joy, thank you so much for sharing with us today. I've learned so
Yeah.
much, and it's been really great hearing how you've built out your business, and we're all working towards making them better, streamlining things, figuring out how to
Right.
be more efficient, and figure out the admin pieces that are no fun. But, one of the things that I've always done is that it's just one piece. And just like you said, you take time off and you tweak one thing. Well, that's one little step that just makes
Right.
it easier going forward. And those compound. Those
They do.
absolutely compound.
Yes.
And, I bet if you really look back, you've done a lot more than you're giving yourself credit for in those little
It's fair.
steps.
Yeah. I mean, every little bit helps, and keep going forward.
And I think also we don't give ourselves enough credit for not knowing what we don't know.
Yeah.
So there's no way that you can build everything you need from the very beginning and have it work. It will
Right.
not work.
Yeah.
There are definitely systems. I try to teach one of them called the Business of Baking, where I give you a framework to like build the order system, build the pricing system, build this, so that it's not so overwhelming down the road.
Right.
But the reality is, I can't do it for you. I don't know what you need. And I don't
Right.
know, I don't know what it's going to look like tomorrow. And so giving ourselves the grace to say, like, I don't know, we'll figure it out when it comes, right?
Yeah.
I think gets us a long ways in building these businesses.
Very true. And I mean, that's, even with the professional side and stuff where I'm like, okay, I've come in from an industrial side where, yes, I have a lot of knowledge on cleanliness and efficiency. And, even if I don't know a lot about the business side, there's still like coming into like the cottage business. I've been doing this for so many years, and it really wasn't until I joined like the little cookie chat group that was, all about trying to get the cottage bakery laws elevated and a little bit looser that I actually started looking deeper into cottage bakery law. I'm like, oh, there's a lot of stuff in here that I have not been paying attention to. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm generally still within compliance and it's fine, but like,
Yeah.
wow, I probably could have helped myself a lot over the last few years. Yeah. Knowing this stuff and knowing what you don't know. Like, great, you've survived. You've still been running a business just fine. You haven't broken any laws. You can keep going now that you know
Yeah.
more stuff.
Yeah, I think we just have to learn as we go, and that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, on a final note, could you share with our listeners any advice that you would give bakers that are just starting or thinking about starting? Or, what advice would you give to someone that's listening to this today?
I'd say my biggest piece is taking a small business class. It's something that I've dabbled in. PCC has it's like the Small Business Development Center, and they have like a free initial seminar, and they'll like help you figure out where you are in your business planning. And just having like the community college, like they will guide you into that. They have connections with that Spark program, which is kind of like a business mentory kind of situation. And just having someone with that expertise of even general small business knowledge that can help you get a few ducks in a row and see where you're at. I think it has helped me in the past of like, oh, I thought I was so much further along than I am. No wonder I'm spinning out and struggling. Like, I need to come back here and work on this structure. And they can guide you through that, or even if you can take it from there and do it yourself, great. But that, I think, is probably one of the biggest things is, again, absorb as much knowledge from anywhere you can. And yeah, that one is a pretty good, like, running mainstay of an organization that will get you on at least some semblance of a good track.
Yeah. Yeah. Any small business development center, most communities have one. If you're just starting or thinking about running a business, is like foundational to getting up and running. So I'm really glad you share that, because I think some people don't even know those exist or haven't thought
Right.
about that. But those, they can just help you figure out the steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then things to think about, resources, additional classes, all of the
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, our final question, I ask all of my guests to share. What does success look like for you right now? Not 5 years ago, not 10 years from now, but in this season of your life.
Definitely getting, my business structure that I'm trying to work on right now. I think, again, it's like your Google form, kind of creating some simple forms like that to just streamline the ordering process. I mean, not only for me, but for my customers. And then I am trying to build out a kitchen in part of my garage. And I've been trying to do that since we moved into this house in 2021. Yeah, cleaning out the garage is that if I can get that done, that looks like really great success. And I would love to, properly get the ball rolling on that. So yeah, I can kind of build out that space, have it separate from the house, and separate, but not, but, have my business have a little bit more structure and, I guess, separation
Yeah.
is where we're trying to get to.
Autonomy from your life a little bit. It's hard when
Yeah.
it's in your home. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I want my home, I want my living room back is really I want to actually make it
Yes.
not full of cookie cutters and bins of flour.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I
Yeah.
greatly appreciate your time today, and very happy that you could join me and share your knowledge with our listeners. My goal on mixing up success is to be just a source of those conversations and knowledge for bakers and for
Yeah.
small business owners that like you mentioned, it's like when you find the information or you hear from other people or you just hear, oh, yeah, oh, it's okay. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to raise
Yeah.
my price. It's okay to
Right.
do these
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really what my goal is to just have conversations with people that are really doing it and figuring it out as we go. And hopefully we can share some insights for others. So thank you for joining
Sweet.
me today.
Thank you so much for having me.